everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of the Make a Difference podcast. I am Farah, along with my host Darius, and we are so excited to be joined by Jamie today of Jam with Jamie. And not to create a pun here, but we have a jam-packed episode for real today. Ha 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 ha. I came up with that a few minutes ago. But really, we have a jam-packed episode today. Jamie is going to talk to us a lot about her business, Jam with Jamie, how it came about, what she does, the amazing things that she's doing, bringing music into children's lives. And then we're also going to dive into some heavier stuff that Jamie has gone through in her life and talk about that. So Jamie, thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. This is so great. I'm so excited to talk to you about all the things in our jam-packed episode.
Yes, our jam-packed episode with Jamie.
Let's
Well,
do
awesome. Let's just dive right in. Tell us
it.
about Jam with Jamie, how it started, what you guys are doing, how you grew it. You grew it very quickly and to be a very large scale operation. I'd love to hear more.
Absolutely. So I started off the business in 2008. I actually have a lot of experience teaching music to kids. I was an assistant music teacher growing up in Miami at a couple local synagogues, went to school at the University of Texas at Austin and hook 'em horns. Worked a lot with kids there. And then I also have a lot of experience working in children's theater. So I've been around kids like my whole life, even as a kid myself. I worked in children's theater. And when I came to New York to be on big old Broadway, I was auditioning for everything. It was really hard auditioning for everything because I was not a good dancer. And I like had to go to all these dance calls and pretend like I was a dancer until I realized like I should go to the singer's call first. So, anyways, to visualize, that's what I was doing alongside um, random jobs like waiting tables. And I was really bad at that. And, odd jobs, babysitting. I was a nanny for the editor of Us Weekly for a while. I had a lot of random jobs. That was really fun, though. It showed me that I was not ready for children myself. And all of this led to me going back to my passion of singing and working with kids. I worked at a place called City Babes down in Soho, and then as a music teacher uptown. And then I started my business because my mom, who has since passed away, was like, you know what? You should go off on your own. Meanwhile, I was like making complete like crap like from like every class I was doing. She's like, maybe you should spin off on your own and like start your own thing. And I think she was just trying to get me off of her like credit card. So this was like her grand scheme of like helping me pay my own bills. She's like, go off on your own. Like she helped me come up with my first business cards. She helped me come up with the name, which I thought was like the worst name ever. I was like, Jam with Jamie. I just don't know. I'm not, there's something about it so cheesy. And she was like, no, Jamie, it's great. It's great. I'm making your business cards. Just do it. And so I did my first party for actually a friend of hers daughter's, who it's her daughter's first birthday party. And I was terrified. I was like, I'd never like gone off on my own. And like, I pretended to play guitar my whole life. I'm like the girl who like held a guitar in her senior picture as if I really knew how to play it, but I just used it as a prop to make me like look cool. I mean, we've all done something like that, right? I took like 2 guitar lessons and legit there in my senior yearbook, there is a picture of me like straddling a guitar. Like with all like on the musicians page, like gonna be musicians. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna be a musician. Look at me with my guitar. Meanwhile, 2 guitar lessons. Fake it till you make it, guys. Like,
Heck yeah.
if you like, you want to play guitar, just hold it wherever you go, and then like maybe you'll like through osmosis figure it out. So I started this company. I was terrified because my guitar skills were like bad, but my performance skills were like top notch, if I do say so myself. And my, singing and approach to working with kids like that, I was confident in. And then I realized like it's not about the guitar. it is about the presentation for, at least in children's performance. It's about your relationship with the children and the families that are in the room. And so I got that really quickly, and then I got better at guitar. Like I stopped putting so much pressure on myself to be amazing at it. And I was like, it's fine. I don't have to be like doing scales up and down and like, little riffs. I just need to sing the song and have something to support my melody. And so I did that for like 3 years. I was building the business. I started getting some mentions in publications like Time Out Kids, Daily Candy, which isn't around anymore, but at the time it was cool. And those mentions really helped me get a lot of business. Then I booked an off-Broadway show with music by Laurie Berkner with a company called New York Children's Theater. Back then it was called Making Books Sing. So I was auditioning a lot, and I kept booking these children's theater roles, which is great. I mean, I love children's theater, but like, it was kind of like, I wanted to be like Maureen in Rent, or like, in Wicked. I wanted to be like the next Idina Menzel, and I had auditions for both of those shows. I had auditions for Spring Awakening and got really close in that when I first moved here. So I was close to like a lot of stuff, but I just kept booking these children's theater roles in like the crazy character role, like the I do this like Jewish character. I play I kind of sound like this, and like the casting director, like the what's her name, from Friends. What's her name? Estelle. Estelle. I had this Estelle thing, and I brought that with me to a lot of these auditions. I even would dress up in character, and I just kept booking these character roles. And meanwhile, I'm still running Jam with Jamie at the time, and I loved it. Like, I love doing comedic roles. I kept booking these fun, outlandish character roles, and was simultaneously running this business. And the show with Laurie Berkner was running on the weekends, and I couldn't also do the birthday parties on the weekend. They were mostly on the weekends. So I, reached out to my network to see who had worked with kids before, who sang and played guitar, got some recommendations, ended up hiring my first entertainer. Her name is Kelly, and she was amazing, and it was just me and Kelly for a long time, sending her out to parties and like figuring out how to run a business where I'm like managing her, managing myself, scheduling, and it was fairly low key. But then it like picked up. I got more and more inquiries. I started hiring more people. And very naturally, we started to expand into other states. So, for example, one of my teachers was moving to Chicago, and he was like, if you could find me some birthday parties out there, like maybe I could also work out there. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, maybe let me check it. Let me see what I can do in Chicago. And I started to reach out to my network in Chicago, and then we started getting inquiries, and I was able to send them out. So whenever somebody moved, like Kelly ended up moving to Nashville, I expanded to Nashville. I said, we've expanded. We're there now. I mean, again, this is kind of like the fake it till you make it thing. Like, nobody knows how much went into it. I literally just made a graphic that said we were there, and then we were there. Which I don't know if I'd actually recommend this to anyone, because I would say what I learned from my mistakes is like, come up with like a business plan, like maybe hire an ambassador that knows the children's world in Nashville or wherever you're going, who can help you get roots on the ground, because I wasn't there. So that was a mistake I made, but it was, I was like living and learning. So I kind of did that in like 8 states within 2 years. And it was all natural. Like a girl in Miami reached out to me. She saw YouTube videos that I did, and she wanted me to give her advice. And I was like, how about I give you all of my advice and you work with me? And she was like, okay. So she ended up working for me in Miami, where I'm from. And then I was like, well, if I'm in all these other places, I have to be in LA. And Dallas kind of fell into my lap too. So it was just it was all like it felt right with each place. I was like, okay, we're there now, you know. All I need is a really good team, at least 3 performers in each state. I'm going to roll out the same thing that I'm doing in New York. I'm going to reach out to as many publications, mommy networks, contacts that I can, and tell them we're there, and then train each of the performers to learn our set. And they're all doing the same thing. They're all wearing the Jam with Jamie t-shirt. They're all there's no guesswork. I'm not just sending a random person to go to someone's party. I'm training them. I'm making sure that they know what they're doing. I'm sending them their props. I'm following them. And then it became a machine. So here we are now, about 50 performers on the team. I stuck with the 8 states. I haven't expanded. I want to, if I'm going to expand anywhere else, I need to like really have more of a plan. Now everything's going well in those states, but I still think that I have a lot of room for improvement to become like what we are in Miami and New York and LA, like the other states in between. I need someone on the ground. So I'm working to figure out how to how to be more connected to the community there.
Great.
Love it.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. So about 50 performers now. So from you and your mom
Yep.
making you business cards to
Yes.
50 performers in 7 states, you said?
8.
How many states? 8 states now. Very
Yeah.
cool. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Any further aspirations to continue to maybe make the Broadway thing work?
Oh my gosh, what a question. It's really funny you asked me that because I went down memory lane this morning looking at my Wanda's Monster pictures. I did like a TBT post because that's what you do. And threw it back to my Wanda's Monsters days. And then actually last night I was watching a video of me and my friend doing, do you know the Cup song?
Yeah.
I got a ticket from the long way round. And I was watching the Cup, myself and my friend doing the Cup song. And it was amazing. I'm like, oh my God, like, we need to take this on the road. What are we doing? I was texting him. I'm like, first of all, we were like 40 pounds lighter. We look amazing. And that's what happens when you have 2 kids. He only has one, but you know, you gain weight, sympathy weight when you're
For sure.
this is what happens when you have a kid, even if you're the husband. I'm like, oh my God, we look amazing. We need to be Broadway stars. Like, what are we doing? He's like one of my best friends. And we were like doing the Broadway circuit with each other for a long time. He was very close to stuff too. It's hard, you know,
It
like
is, yeah.
it's such a dream. I just don't think the lifestyles for me. You know, I'm in the family life, I'm in the building this business life, I'm writing a book, which we'll get to. And the business is really, it's really taken over a lot of my time. And I love it. So um, maybe like maybe a cabaret. I feel like I
Yeah.
can commit to like a
Cabaret?
cabaret
Wow.
um, and like a one, like maybe like 1 week's, you know, performances or even readings. Like I love doing readings. I did like a reading with Air Supply. God, it must have been like 5 years ago, but it was great. Like I would do stuff like that in a heartbeat.
Mm.
It's just the commitment of like 8 shows a week with everything
Oh,
else going
yeah.
on. You really need to dedicate yourself to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, cool. Let's talk about the book.
Wait, real quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions. Are you doing,
Yes.
first question, are you doing like an original set, or what are you or are you covering songs, or what are you doing?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. We're doing all children's classics and songs you hear on the radio and rock and roll. So we have a few original songs, but mostly songs that people don't have to prepare in advance. Like they're going to know everything that we're coming in to sing, which I think people really appreciate in us. It's not all, you know, foreign music.
Yeah. So in doing and having, so you have this business that's grown rapidly, and you're in 8 states working with children, which in my mind, I think entrepreneurship, I think depending on maybe your age or background, maybe you don't think children, but you're working with a very unique uh, audience, delicate. And so I'd be curious to know, like, what has this actually shown you about children, like being in this space?
Yeah. It's shown me that you can never know what you're going to expect. So you got to always stay on your toes. You got to improvise. You got to roll with it, because you might be in the middle of singing a song and they're asking you to sing something else.
Yeah.
Or they're like screaming something. Like they're like the hardest audience and the best audience at the same time, because I mean, they're not going to be polite. They're just going to say exactly what they're thinking at all times. They're going to just start eating, and, like, they might throw something at you. Like, it's very possible, if they don't like the animal puppet that you gave them and they really want a pig instead of a cow, it's going to get chucked at your head. And the parent's going to come in and be like, "Don't do that, Sydney. What are you doing?" And then you're like, "It's fine. We're just singing. Everything's fine." So as somebody who loves to improvise, I love that. But I've had a lot of performers come in and have a hard time with that. Like, they get thrown off. And I'm like, "Look, you're on a train. It's a high speed train, and you just got to stay on. You have your script, you know what you're doing. Like, you're going to have a lot of obstacles thrown at you along the way. Roll with it, right? Like, if you feel like something's not working in that part of the set, you got to have like a bag of tricks. So don't just stick with it. Don't just stick with exactly what you're doing, but move faster. So if something's really not working, move to something else. Transition, regain the focus. It's about keeping the energy up. A lot of it is about keeping the energy up, and also ignoring the the what am I trying to say? The hecklers? Hecklers? The hecklers. It's not an A.
Can
The
we call them
hecklers.
hecklers being that
They're
small?
baby hecklers.
Baby hecklers.
Ignore the baby hecklers and do your work. Ignore the adult hecklers too, because there's some of those too. Had a few. So especially the guy, the uncle after the show, like, "What kind of guitar do you have?" I'm like,
Oh,
"Not
yeah.
today. Not today."
Oh my
Has
gosh.
this
Yeah, I
has
can
I've seen it
imagine.
all, guys. I've
I'm
seen it
sure.
all.
has this impacted you in any way, like as a parent? Because you said initially you were like, I'm not ready for kids. I knew that right away by doing this, but you have children of your own now.
I
So
sure do.
does it impact the way you parent at all, or something to think
Oh
about
gosh.
when you parent?
Well, it shows me that I had it so easy being able to just hang out with them for 45 minutes and then leave. Because unfortunately, if you do that with your own kids, they like call child services. I don't know what this is about, but like, you can't just leave them. And I'm trying to work on, like, fix this, because it's ridiculous. You should just be able to leave. They're very hard.
I love it.
That's what I've learned.
I love, so
You
what's
caught
the
me on a bad day, Darius. It
no,
was a
I did
really
not.
hard morning with my kids.
I caught
Um,
you on the perfect day.
Uh,
Uh,
it's not all
my
rainbows and sunshine.
it's
We all
not.
know
And you
I
know
mean, I
what?
have
Like, with
I have two children of my own. I have two
yeah,
children.
yeah.
Yeah,
I see
in
from
the
behind
timeline.
you. I see all the things going on.
Stuff on my waistline, as you put it earlier. But I get it. I think I'm curious to know, like, even though you're not necessarily growing the operation right now, you don't really have that growth mindset in that aspect. In terms of maybe relationships and other things, how are you as the leader of an organization? What types of what direction are you heading in terms of continuing to cultivate relationships with these parents and the kids?
Yeah, I'm working on that every single day. How to smooth out all of my operations, to delegate more. I went so many years doing everything by myself,
Yeah.
and not really having the guidance, somebody to tell me, "Girl, you gotta, like, you, whatever you don't feel like you love doing, give that to somebody who does love to do it." Find somebody who can do that, because I've spent a lot of time learning how to do all these things,
Yeah.
learning the social media marketing. Networking is something that I really love to do, but marketing is something that I'm still learning and isn't really my wheelhouse. And sales is something that I naturally love. If you love talking about something, you're a salesperson. Like, whatever you love is your sales. So I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, and which makes me a good salesperson, but I don't, like, it's like street smarts, right? So, like, there's someone else who really has a backbone in sales, who can, could be even better than I am. So where I am now is building a team. continuing to build a team that can then help us grow even bigger than we are. And I realize now that I can't do more than what I'm doing right now without a bigger team. So that is where the growth mindset is what better systems can we use, making sure that we have like somebody that is a great bookkeeper, like ensuring that all the things that I'm not great at, we're just making bigger and better, ensuring that the people that are on our team that shouldn't be on the team are off the team, making sure that our hiring process is smoother and that our culture is improved and that the communications are improved and all of our systems and all of that. I want to make everything that we have right now as good as it can be and max that out. And then we can think about growing.
Yeah, for sure. Now,
So
before we
I know
pivot to
that.
the book, last question, because I know I'm just
Wait,
firing you up.
and before we get to the book, I also have a question, and then I promise we'll get to the
Yes,
book.
and we should talk about the craziness of the pandemic too, because like
That's my
that's
question.
good. Okay,
My
great.
question is about COVID, but you go first before we do the COVID thing, Darius.
The COVID thing.
I'm on a roll. Don't stop me for sure. I want to know what's the like greatest compliment you've received from a parent or a kid doing this?
I did these videos with a company called Howcast like 8 years ago, where I'm teaching children's songs, and some of these videos have 1 million views. Just the response from them has been absolutely incredible, and the best compliment that I got was there was a little girl who at 1 years old was watching all of my videos, and like 4 years later I got a message from her mom that says like my daughter still watches your videos like whenever she's having a bad day and she loves you so much. Meanwhile, this little girl had gone through treatment for cancer and had had a really hard 4 years, and she kept going back to my videos to make her feel better. It was like home to her. It was like this cozy spot to like sing along with me, and I will take that with me forever. I was not even paid for doing any of these videos. All of the payment came from like the response that I got from people around the world watching these videos saying that I helped their child. So many others like this family help their child through a hard time, help their child learn English. I'm like, the videos keep popping up still, like in people's classrooms. And I would say that's definitely tops it off for me.
Let's go.
No, that's an awesome story.
All right, tell us.
All right, well,
you're up.
we have to talk about COVID. And I think, everyone is obviously so sick of COVID, including the three of. Oh, okay. All right.
Bring it on.
Okay. Well, most people are very sick of COVID, hearing about it, talking about it. But I do think that it's important to talk about adversity and how we get through adversity. And so you're running a business. Obviously, your business thrives off of parties and children's parties, which obviously ceased to exist for a little while, right? And so how did you pivot? What does that look like for you? Did you go through a scary time? Was there something that you did in the interim to continue generating revenue? Was it paused? And then I guess what's happening now?
Thanks for asking that. It was, for so many small businesses, one of the hardest times. For so many, I mean, for everyone around the world, it was one of the hardest things that we've had to go through. And as soon as I realized what was happening, and we'll again get to this, the loss, I've experienced a lot of loss in my life. I felt a similar feeling. I was like, oh, whoa, okay, I see. I feel what's happening right now. Like, we're things are changing. Like, how are we going to respond to this? Because we have a choice. Mm-hmm. You can sink or float, or you don't, or you move. You don't move. You just stay still. And I felt that. And I took it in, and this is really a weird feeling, but there's your serotonin gets going in those moments too. It's like, you're like, this is horrible, but why am I feeling like excited? Like, I feel like this like weird anticipation maybe. And I think it's just because I've been through so many like traumatic moments that something comes up in me where I'm like, I got to do something. Like I have to do something. Maybe that's where the excitement's coming from. Things are really bad right now. Like this is serious. And part of me, there's like, I have like a yin and yang. Like part of me was like, chill, like don't do anything, like just go to sleep like for 3 months. Like
Wouldn't
just like
that have been nice?
like you don't have to do anything. Take care of your kids, feed yourself. Like you don't have to like gain a six pack by the end of this. Like you don't have to like redo your whole business. Just chill. That there was half my brain doing that. I'm not gonna lie. The other half was like, do everything, fix everything. All of your actors and musicians are out of work. You have people to take care of. You have so many children who are so sad at home. Do something. So I chose her because I have a really hard time not like doing. Like I have like I couldn't be complacent. Like I just had to do it, even though I knew it was gonna like drive me a little cray. And we started doing free virtual classes. I had everybody on my team band together to offer a full schedule of free classes for anybody who wanted to tune in and watch. And it was a beautiful thing. I'm so glad I did it. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of moving parts. It was a lot of scheduling. But it was so awesome because no one was paying for anything. And I love the nonprofit mindset, even though it is a lot of work. Everybody's just grateful that you're there. So there's no judgment. It was like the first time in my business that like we could do anything. Like we could show up in any room and sing some songs and we were doing everything right. Like if we were just showing up with the goodness of our heart to do this, like and I want to take that with me because it was an awesome time and I want to like believe that in all of humanity that we're all just trying to make it work. Like in whatever line of work that we're in, we're all just doing our best. Like let's get rid of the judgment. There's so many different ways to do something, so many ways that you could do it better. But like if we're showing up, that's doing our best. Maybe not for everyone. Maybe some people can do better. But most people, if you're showing up, you're putting in the work, you're doing your best. And I felt so tight with my team during that time. Um, the response from the community was like out of this world. We started doing virtual birthday parties. Again, it was super low key. Like people were just happy to have an option for their kids' birthday parties where they thought, oh my goodness, like I'm not going to do anything now. I had this whole thing planned. I can't do anything. So it was really beautiful. And since then we've had to figure out, so I did that for 3 months with just donation based. And I was like, all right, like, and we were making some money off virtual parties, which we were doing donation based as well. And then we started to put a price to it and realized, okay, we need to, I think everybody after 3 months are like, all right, let's get back to business. Like we're still running a business. But I really tried to take all of that with me, that feeling, that heartfelt feeling of like, we're all doing this because we love it and we want to help each other. Let's just bring that in anything that we do. Yeah. And we started a homeschool program. We just kept rolling with the times and seeing like what was the need that needed to be filled. So a lot of parents were struggling with homeschooling at home. So we began to start my operations manager, Aaliyah, created a curriculum for 2 to 5 year olds. And we began to place teaching artists with small pods. They call them pods, homeschool pods. A lot of outside groups, some inside groups, and we're still offering that and doing that. And that's been a way for us to amp up our revenue, and really has been a way that we've survived through the year from virtual parties. Now we're doing social distance parties and events, play groups, a lot of outside play groups. And it's like we don't know what's going to come next, right? We're just trying to roll with it and prepare for whatever's going to come, and hopefully business continues to go up.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me when you were speaking is how you lit up when you were talking about you guys literally just giving. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because one thing is like that is the future of entrepreneurship. I would argue. I would submit to anyone interested in entrepreneurship that that's the future of entrepreneurship. It's operating with the giving mindset, and not in the sense of being a nonprofit, but are you doing it just to get, right? Or are you just coming to give to something of value, you know? And so props to you as a leader for even being willing to shift as opposed to doubling down on the get mindset and trying to find opportunities to get. but being willing to just, no, let me just come, give of myself to my team, give to the customer, or the client rather, and see what happens, you know? So,
Absolutely. I would exactly your words. I completely agree. It and with that giving, the getting will come, you
right.
know? It's so if your heart is in the right place and you just are, you know, feeling
Giving.
a need, trying to help, being
Yeah.
generous with yourself, with your time, and only doing something that you love, the getting will happen.
Come
Isn't
on.
that like manifesting too? Like,
Yep.
like whatever you put out in the world is what you'll receive. And I strongly believe that is the mentality that I want to keep. And it's easy to get wrapped up in the business, like the shenanigans that we all deal with in business. It's toxic. So that's why I'm really trying to hold on to that feeling and remember that, because
100%.
it's easy to forget, especially when there's maybe certain people on your team that it's like it's not working out. Which some of my biggest advice is like, don't work with people who aren't giving you that feeling, that if they don't agree with you, if they don't feel that same thing, if they don't love what they're doing,
Yep.
let them find somewhere else to work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it just
Absolutely.
extends so far out of that. You know, business is it, it's a very significant platform. We spend more time at work usually than with our own families for a lot of us. You know, so if you are operating, leading an organization of individuals who have that, you all have that same orient. You all matter. You all contribute. What you bring to the table matters, and let's give it to someone else to better them. The I think just the exponential impact outside of the workplace is just so significant, you know,
Hmm.
because you
It
know
trickles
we've all
into
experienced
everything.
the opposite, right? When you're part of someone that's just taking and taking, and you're
Mm,
taking from people, that's how you end up coming home and tossing them back all night and having heart attacks on Monday mornings. So,
no
um,
bueno.
so anyways,
Mhm.
great job.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, it's always, we love, obviously, in our business, we work with small businesses, and so we really also saw the tremendous effect that COVID has had on small businesses. Um, and so we applaud you for pivoting and figuring out how to continue to make it work through the hard times. And we'll all get through this together. That's what it's
Absolutely.
going to take. But
We
all
will.
right, let's shift gears a little bit. I definitely want to get to the grief thing because I think that it's important. A lot of people deal with it. A lot of people, like you said yourself, this whole pandemic has brought grief amongst many people, and this feeling of tremendous loss. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Your basically your story on your tremendous losses that you experienced in a very short amount of time, how you dealt with it, and then what you do now to help people get through their own losses.
Yeah. So I have to clear my throat for this one.
Take a
Yeah,
sip.
sip of water, toss it back. I'm gonna hold on one second, guys. I'm just gonna go take a shot. I'll be right back. Um, yes, I have experienced a tremendous amount of loss. I lost my brother in a car accident, 1998. I was only 13 at the time. My mom was battling breast cancer just a couple years after that, and before that, she had been in remission when he passed away. And my dad was diagnosed with leukemia around the same time, but we actually didn't know about it. He didn't share that with us. So we found out my dad was going for a bone marrow transplant a year before he passed away. And so he passed away from leukemia in 2004, and then my mom, 5 years later in 2009, passed away from breast cancer after a 15-year battle. So through all of that time, 13 to 23, 24, um, I definitely experienced a lot of grief and trauma and trying to figure out what all of those feelings meant, how to make sense of them, am I doing this right? A lot of that came up. Am I grieving properly? Am I digesting? Am I like should I be talking more about it? Um, I doubted myself a lot. I also, you know, diverted from it a lot and ignored all of it and pretended like nobody was gone many times. I would live my life and go hang out with my friends and have my boyfriends and go to college and party and all of those things um, to be the teenager that I wanted to be, not like the girl who had lost half her family, um, which is something that was really shitty being famous for in my community. Like it was so amazing to see the way that my community supported me and my brother. I still have a brother, Mike, who lives in Coconut Grove in Florida with his wife and two girls. And for us, there was just a lot of eyes on us. And while it was so great, it was like a lot of attention. And it's like everybody knew so much about you. And they were there for like the biggest moments. It almost became like, if you've gone through some of these tremendous losses, it feels like sometimes when you're in it, like I'm Jewish and we had Shivas after each of their passing. And when you're there at the Shiva and everybody's around, it's like you're watching a movie and it's not even your life. It's like surreal. Um, so, and especially 13, 14, 15, 16, like it's really hard to process what was actually happening, especially when Alan passed away. Like I was so young. I remember there was a boy I really liked from high school. His name was Evan. He might be, if he ever listens to this, his name was Evan. Now my youngest son is named Evan, but it has no correlation. He came to Shiva and me and him and like some of our friends are at this like empty lot next door. Meanwhile, I thought Shiva was the best thing ever. I was like, this is amazing. Like so much food all the time. All these people are here. Like there was something about it that was like, man, this is like the worst time of my life ever. But like Shiva's awesome. Like we can all get together and like talk about like it just was a distraction is what it was. That's why it was welcome. It was a distraction. Um, anyways, Evan asked me to be his girlfriend at Shiva. And at the time I was like, hell yeah, I'll be your girlfriend. This is great. Like Shiva couldn't be going better for me. Like this is awesome. Um, Meanwhile, month or so later, I heard he's like hooking up with a friend of mine. And I'm like, well, that didn't go so well. Um, I'm like thinking, I mean, in retrospect, you can dissect this in so many ways. Was I more popular because within like a 13-year-old mind, because everybody was putting so much attention on me at the time, did it make me cooler and like more popular? There was a very weird popularity that came with my losses. And it's something that at the time I wouldn't be able to put into words, but the more I write about it and like the more I think back on this time, it's bizarre. Um, and I feel like it's uncomfortable too, like, especially looking back on it, like that shouldn't bring popularity. But as a 13-year-old, it actually did. Like people, I don't know, maybe they felt bad for me. And so they gave me more attention or they thought I was more fragile or something. But I've got to be honest with you, and I will admit it, I ate it up. I was like, look, I went through a hard time. Everybody's being so nice to me. Like, and this guy asked me to be his girlfriend that I really like. This is working out really well for me. So, you know, just take it, right? Like, this is how things are going. All right, fine. And and so I guess a big part of my experience through all of my losses was not just reaping the benefits of popularity from death, but it's funny. I've never actually put this into words, guys. I'm like totally like tangenting and like I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense. But here's the thing: is nothing really makes sense when you're grieving and losing people that you love. Nothing makes sense. And like what I realized is I can go back and think about how I reacted to things till I'm blue in the face. Did I do that right? Did I do that wrong? Like, why did I escape and do that? Why didn't I spend more time with my mom? Like, I couldn't handle that she was sick. I couldn't handle that my dad was sick. Like, I was really struggling seeing my parents get sick and then And I was in college when my dad was really ill and wanted to just be in college. Looking back, I feel really shitty. Like I wish I just like left and like went with him, but then and went to be with him, but they didn't want me to. Like they wanted me to be in college. Like my mom didn't want me to go to Seattle where he was getting a bone marrow transplant. Um, but I look back and I think like, could I have done more? Did I do enough? Was I a good daughter? Like, did I do all the things? Why did I deflect it so much? I think a lot of me was just scared and like did not want that to be my life, and it was. And there was so much that I still relive today, you know, going back to that time and thinking how I responded. And I just embrace where I was at that moment. There's no point in, you know, regretting how I reacted. I think it was fairly, it's all normal. Like every response to these big things in life is normal. And all we can do as we're reflecting, especially because grief is a journey, we have to give ourselves a big hug and say, I love you and I accept you. And whatever you've been through and whatever you've done and however you've reacted is right. And I'm a strong believer that my family is on the other side and will eventually all be together again. And they're guiding me, and that life is a snippet of time and that we are here to learn. I believe in reincarnation. I believe in, you know, everything that John Edwards and Brian Weiss say. I've read a lot of their books because my mom was a big believer, so maybe she inspired me. And it's given me hope that it's not like this isn't it. And I think that's a big part of how I've been able to continue and live life the way I have. It's like, okay, like this is my deck of cards. It's been, you know, this is mine. This is my life, and I'm going to take these challenges. I'm going to um, learn from them. I'm going to love the life that I have, even when I don't, because I'm a real person. I'm going to remind myself that I'm here for a snippet of time, and that I'm going to do everything I can to embrace each day and love each day because it's short. It's really short. And sure, I can be depressed, I can be anxious, and it's when you're in those moments, it's really hard to get out of it. I'm not saying it's easy at all, but remembering all of these things, reminding myself that I believe in these things and that I've been through a lot, I can typically get out of that rut and just think of the bigger picture and how um, you know, one breath at a time, one day at a time, and take this with me and be as resilient as I possibly can.
Now, all that being said, are has that led you to want to help others with?
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually working on my scholarship foundation right now that my parents started in memory of Alan. We have awarded over 200 recipients scholarships over the past 18 years. And it's incredibly rewarding to give back and to share our story with people. And when we have people's students send in essays, they share a challenge with us and how they overcame the challenge. And that was a prompt that my parents made the essay prompts. Like they really wanted to hear from kids who had overcome a challenge and help those kids, and also who had some persona, some outgoing, you know, traits about life like Alan did, who was like this out of this world character. Just talk about popular, and everybody loved him. When he walked in a room, you just knew he was there. So I think they were looking for some of those qualities in recipients. And we continue to host the event every single year. This year's not in person. It's usually over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's going to be virtual. And we're just going to get together and toast to the next generation. And it's incredible to help those students. And in addition, I have a lot of outside of the foundation, I just love talking to other people who have gone through similar experiences. I recently started going to events with a I don't want to call it a company, but an organization called Modern Loss. I guess they're a company. And it's this incredible affiliation that gets people together who have experienced loss. I went on a grief retreat, which are two words I would have never thought I'd put together, but it was a bunch of people who have experienced loss together in the same room, able to talk to each other about loss and share our experiences with each other. And I had never done that in almost, in 20 years of having gone through this life. I'd never sat in a room like that. And I just thank Modern Law so much for being able to bring us all together and have a community is the word that I'm looking for, a community to lean on. And it's really important to get that support.
For sure. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I know it probably gets a little bit easier the more time passes, but I know it's never easy to talk about that. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go chug the bottle after this podcast. Don't judge me.
I'll do that. So that being said, I think I have one more question where we sort of begin to close her up. Imagine you have a platform to speak to 10 million people. Putting it out there. This is the Make a Difference podcast, where we are highlighting individuals like yourself who are having a positive impact in their given area of choice, And so anything you'd share to our audience who's listening, just, maybe nothing like vote for this person or that person, but just, some words, plenty of people are out there going through things, dealing with things, have aspirations, want to serve, are confused, yada, 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 everything in between. But you have a captive audience, any positive words or anything you want to share to individuals who might be listening to the Make a Difference podcast.
Thanks for asking me that. And if only one day I could stand on a stage in front of 10 million people, or you have a captive audience that's listening, and I would be so grateful. It's actually something that I eventually want, that I'm manifesting every day. I have it now. It's amazing to be able to connect with people. What I would say is that don't take everything so seriously. There's really big things that can happen in life, big things that can tear you down, and you can think, poor me, this sucks, that person's life is better. Oh, I was better 10 years ago. I was thinner. I was this, or I could have been this, or I wish I did this. Where you are right now is exactly where you should be. So I would say to everyone, give yourself a giant hug, love yourself, and talk to yourself nicely, because we are our biggest critics. So if we can just embrace where we are and love who we are and not compare ourselves to other people and embrace the journey that we've been on, whether it's been all the way up or all the way down or up and down like a roller coaster, like that's your journey. That's awesome. Like only you has that journey. So there's no comparison. And I think that's something that is a really good reminder that we can take with us so that we can have whatever we want in life. Because I do think that it's possible for us to have whatever we want.
That being said, tell people where they can follow, support, get you to come out or be on the computer, I guess. Tell people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on the gram.
On the IG.
The IG. At Jam with Jamie is where I post regularly. At Jamie Kolnick is where I intend to plan more regularly. And at Reach for the Stars Foundation, where I also plan to post more regularly. Guys, keeping up with all of these IG accounts, this is the stuff I'm talking about. Delegate, right? Need more, can't do it all yourself. So that's where you can find me. And of course, jamwithjamie.com if you have kiddos or know someone with kiddos and they need party entertainment or classes or education, we got you.
Roger that. Well, Jamie Kolnick, is that how we pronounce it?
That's it.
of Jam with Jamie, 8 states, 50 entertainers, just out there making a difference. So thank you for being with us. Farah, my lovely co-host, thank you once again. And you guys out there, this has been another episode of the Make a Difference podcast. Thank you for listening.